Welcome to Brother Miller's Notes. I'm so glad you're with me today. In the Come Follow Me curriculum for the New Testament, we have a week set aside to study about the birth of Jesus Christ, or Christmas. I just want to take just a few minutes, this is going to be a much shorter video, and talk about a few of the things leading up to the Christmas the way we have it. See, we have been very, very fortunate in Matthew and Luke's account that we can study about the nativity, the birth of Jesus Christ. For the first little while after Christ's death, the nativity, the Christmas story was not a point of celebration. Their focus was on Christ crucified, his atonement, his resurrection. And that's a central message you get in throughout the whole New Testament. But the idea to pause on a day and celebrate his birth wasn't really thought about. In the days of early Christians, they were very much persecuted. If you were known that you were a Christian, that was probably, especially under the hands of Nero and some of these Roman emperors and Roman officials, that was not cause to celebrate. They'd put you in dangerous circumstances and you'd be likely to be killed. And the Romans at the time, but they're just a party people. Rome is often built on conquest, on going out and looting other people and bringing it back, and so they can party. And they also have festivals. I'll just talk about one and how some people relate it to Christmas. There's a feast called Saturnalia. It's in honor of Saturn. That's the god of agriculture. And they would begin the week with a week-long festival, and it culminated at the winter solstice. And there have been several historians that have noted that culmination, whether you could say it's December 21st or 22nd or however you're reckoning it, is a few days before December 25th. And we get a lot of people in history that will say, well, Christmas is on 25th because of this celebration. I don't know that that's true, but there is a lot of other celebrations that Rome had. And there's some really kind of fun things with this because as a part of this feast, you let all the low-class citizens were treated as equal for a while. And you can kind of start tying that into Christianity. The Romans did observe a party, Juvenalia, and that was on the 25th. That's celebrating the birth of the god Mithra. And that was kind of like almost one of their sacred days. Well, you fast forward a little bit, and by 336 AD, Christmas is being celebrated by the Christian church in Rome on December 25th. Whether it was a part of a pagan holiday or not, the 25th had become the date. And if you're looking at the leaders of the Christian church in Rome, they don't choose it because it's a Roman celebration. They have a very different way of looking at it. Around 350 AD, the Pope at the time, Julius I, he says, this is the date of the birth of Jesus, December 25th. This is the official date we have. I know in the story itself, there are indications that it's in March, April. It's spring. You have shepherds with their flocks. Everything points to, hey, a springtime setting. But that's not the case. This is what it was declared in 350 AD. It's commonly believed the church chose this date in an effort to adopt and absorb the traditions of the pagan Saturnalia festival, but like I said, it ends 2 days before. There is that Roman celebration on the 25th, Sol Invictus. It's first called the Feast of the Nativity, and by 432 it spread to Egypt and to England by the end of the 6th century. By the time it gets to England in the 6th century, it kind of convolutes from kind of a holy day, and we're celebrating this really to a party. By the Middle Ages, Christianity has replaced paganism, and Christmas people attend church, then they go party. And it's very much like a Mardi Gras celebration. Church first, then you party, party, party. Let me give you a couple examples. On Christmas Day, 1251, the Archbishop of York donated 600 oxen, which were spent on the first course, and this is the history of the Scottish Church by W. Stephen. It's the first course of the meal. They live it up on this date. In medieval England, Christmas was a 12-day festival involving all kinds of revelry. Plays, wild feasts, pageants celebrating Christ's birth. It's like a smattering of celebrations. You had music involved in it, and gift giving and decorations. That's all the norm. One of the most extravagant feasts was celebrated by monarchs like King Henry III. His guests gorged themselves on 600 oxen at one 13th century Christmas feast. Now, this goes on for several hundred years, but there starts to be a reaction against it where people are starting to say, this isn't right. And you have some who are very, very conservative, and they're the Puritans. And early in the 17th century, there's a wave of religious reform, and it changes the way Christmas is celebrated in Europe. Oliver Cromwell gets in power, and his Puritan forces take over England in 1645. And they vow themselves, we are going to get rid of all this decadence in England. And as part of their efforts, they literally cancel Christmas. And as they ban this festival, there's rioting that occurs. And it helps, it's not the main, not all the reasons, but it stokes England's Second Civil War. Isn't that just an irony? Here you have a celebration of peace and of joy, and it's one of the reasons that they go to war, in a civil war. That Second English Civil War took place between February and August 1648 in England and Wales. And then Charles II is restored to the throne. He's popular now because he returns Christmas as a holiday. Well, the Pilgrims, when they come to America in 1620, they're more Orthodox than the Puritans, and their beliefs, than, like their example, Cromwell. As a result, Christmas is really not a holiday in early America. From 1659 to 1681, the celebration of Christmas was actually outlawed in Boston. If you're in Boston, you were caught celebrating, you're fined 5 shillings. Anyone exhibiting the Christmas spirit would get in trouble. But you have some settlements that are very much Christmas celebrations. Jamestown, for example, Captain John Smith reports that Christmas was enjoyed by all and passed without incident. After the American Revolution, English customs fell out of favor, including Christmas. Hey, it was English. We're just English do Christmas. We don't. English drive on one side of the road. We're going to drive on the other. And that slowly starts to turn around. By June 26th, 1870, after the Civil War, let's make a kind of a common thing that we can all celebrate. And there's a renewed emphasis on Christmas. And Americans also just kind of take that Christmas thing from everywhere and start to reinvent it. Instead of the party, the Mardi Gras festival, it now becomes a nostalgic day. It becomes we're going to focus on family. We're going to focus on peace and being together. About this time, you get one of the most famous Christmas books written and published of all time. December 19th, 1843, Charles Dickens creates and publishes the classic tale, A Christmas Carol. The story's message is the importance of charity and goodwill towards everyone. And it strikes a chord in America, and it does in England. And it shows society that, hey, wherever we are, whether you have a lot or you have little, today can be a day that we can celebrate together and focus and be benevolent. And Dickens is very much, let's have the rich show this benevolence on this day. And I was talking to my wife about this a week ago, and for me, as I was thinking about the Christmas Carol, at the very end of the book, you have Scrooge, who's had this change of heart, and I think there's a lot of Charles Dickens's emphasis on the change of heart and where he is moving forward from the selfish capitalist to, I want to be more giving. I've got some wealth, I'm going to start giving and being more social and kind of your social vows of Christianity. Well, Scrooge throws open the windows and he yells down, hey, what day is it? Oh, it's Christmas morning. Well, then he says, go buy some meat. Let's go get some dinner. Well, the obvious thing is in 1843, as he's writing this, and this is a little bit before, the shops are still open. He's sending someone with some money down to go buy some food with the assumption that everybody's still, not everybody, but most people are still working. Kind of a reflection that as Charles Dickens is writing about this time period, Christmas isn't the day off yet, but there's a turning to let's soften our hearts and be more benevolent and have a more Christ-centered focus. And we start adopting, and it's kind of like this melting pot of all these traditions. The Yule log or, the Norse Yule log or the German Christmas tree or the candy canes or wherever it is. Over the next 100 years, we start as Americans, we start building this tradition. Let's just incorporate, we're a melting pot, let's melt everybody's traditions into one big one. And as Christian historian William D. Crump writes in the Christmas Encyclopedia, this creates a kind of Christmas melting pot with a simulation of various cultures into a more uniform and widely celebrated holiday at home with the family. And that seems to be where we're heading. I just know as a society, I was fascinated. We had the COVID years, and I understand that COVID years is an exception. But last year, we had December 25th fell on a Sunday. And there were Protestant religions that said, look, it's more important to be with your family on Christmas than it is to celebrate Christ in church. And so with it falling on a Sunday, you have these Protestant pastors just kind of pushing back about the Christ part and saying, let's have the focus on the home and the family instead of the focus on Christ. And that just kind of fascinates me. 2019, Gallup did a poll and said 93% of Americans, they plan on celebrating Christmas holiday, but only 35% see the holiday as a strongly religious day. And I thought, okay, that's where our society's moving. More of a family and friend, you focus on that on a holiday instead of religious, Christ. So I just have my 5 notes for today. And maybe this is just for me and my family, but I think this Christmas, all of us just, my encouragement, stay focused on Christ. If there's something you do that helps you focus on Christ, keep doing it. If there's something that keeps that focus going away from Christ, stop doing it. If there's a new tradition, start doing it. I like that start, stop, continue idea. And maybe that really focus this Christmas is, what will you do to come closer to Christ? Let that be the theme of Christmas. And I'd always encourage you, like Father Lehi, and my imagery, and this is still my favorite part of his vision of the tree of life. For him, it's a journey you invite your family to. I've tasted the fruit. Let me have the family taste it too. Bring your family with you in your journey to come closer to Christ. You could do things like, hey, let's do a 12 days of Christmas. I know there are actually specific days for 12 days of Christmas, but just start December 1st. Hey, first day of Christmas. You could do it like, hey, first compliments of Christmas, the first things that help me come closer to Christ, Christmas. You can do lots of different things, but maybe just kind of do something that would build up your family. And then my 2 cents, go to church. Go a little early. Sing along. And just make sure your family, just invite them. This is an ordinance and sacrament, and this is a celebration. I love Christ, and I want you to know I love him too. And maybe it is this year you start a new tradition. And maybe it's simple. And then the other thing I would just say, my 5th note for Christmas this year, is simplify. And for me, that is just embodied with this nativity scene that I took a picture of in Jerusalem this year. And there, you can see in the background, there's all these different nativity sets. Well, this is one huge, awesome piece of artwork, and there's everything in it. You have Mary and Joseph and Jesus down below, and you have the shepherds all over the place, and it's just gorgeous, and you got the star on top. And it's incredibly complex, and it's expensive. Keep Christmas simple. Enjoy coming closer to Christ. Thanks for spending a little bit of time with me. And remember the reason for the season. Keep smiling.